Okay, hello, Mr. Spencer, the Warren native.
Yes, the one native.
I see you taught physical education at Tulsa Public Schools.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So let's go back. In 2000 and what was that? 20. All these years started running together. 2017. Spring of 2017, I had a job as the assistant athletic director for academic student services at the University of Tulsa. And at that point in my career, I was at a crossroads. So I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do in my career. I think I had reached the pinnacle of my career at that point. I didn't know if I wanted to go somewhere else or if I wanted to just stay in academic services, if I wanted to move to a different department. And the stress and the burnout of this industry. Like a lot of my colleagues that I started with way back in 2005, are no longer in business and they're doing other things, whether it's teaching or consulting or whatever they're doing. But the industry is to the point where we got a lot of individuals leaving at college athletics. And so in 2017, I made a decision to leave my job and pursue a teaching opportunity in Tulsa Public Schools.
Okay.
So, at first, I was interested in teaching high school because I thought I can connect well with the high school students, and being that I was just recently at the university level. And so I tried getting a couple jobs at the high school level, whether it's a guidance counselor or as a PE teacher, and none of those really worked out just because of the way the certification process happens in Oklahoma. So I had an opportunity to interview for a um, elementary physical education position. And I just took the interview just because I was like, okay, it's an opportunity. Let me just try it and see. And so, you know, took a couple weeks for I interviewed. And it took a couple weeks for her to get back to me, and then she offered me the opportunity, and I realized I wasn't her first choice. So the first choice that she had kind of flaked out. Didn't have the credentials that they needed to be in the position. So then she had to go back, and then she had to call me, and then that started my career as teaching in the pre-K through sixth grade elementary school.
Okay.
And I taught there for 4 years. Had a great time teaching, but I knew I missed working with college student athletes, and so had it not been for this opportunity at Youngstown State, I probably would still be teaching pre-K through six PE elementary, or I might be teaching social studies in sixth grade. I had the option to switch over if I wanted to, but fortunately, this opening came, and I was able to take this opportunity here.
That's good. Did you like it as a teacher there?
I like the staff that I was working with. I like the principal. I think that was probably another thing that kind of helped me make the decision to move to this position here at Youngstown State, is because the principal that I was working with for the last 4 years had retired. And so there was a little uncertainty as to how the leadership of the building would be once she left. And from talking with some of the teachers that I'm still good friends with over the past year, I I'm positive that I made a better decision coming here. Um, you know, just hearing that the culture of the building has changed a little bit. So, um, but all things work together. So I'm glad to be here. But I do miss some of my students, and every once in a while I get on a Zoom assembly with them and just tell them hi. I was honored that the fifth and sixth graders asked me to send them a video about being successful and whatnot for their graduation or promotion. So I was honored to be able to do that, because that shows that they respected me and kind of miss me. And it's interesting, they still have a picture of me on the wall by the gym. So every once in a while I kind of look to see pictures and make sure that picture's still up there.
What would you say is one of your favorite moments of being a teacher there?
One of my favorite moments. I think one of my favorite moments, it's not really a moment, it's really working with students that had no concept of basic sports. Teaching kickball and teaching football and teaching basketball. Um, Not sure what the previous PE teacher did before me, but a lot of my students had no concept of how to play baseball. And, teaching that from pretty much bottom floor fundamentals to see them actually grasp the concept of which way to go on base.
Right.
Which way is third base, which way is third base, knowing positions. Hey, if I tell you, hey, go to left field, they know exactly where to go. So I think when students start understanding the concepts of what you're trying to teach them, that gets me excited because that means I'm getting through to them. They're understanding the concepts. Sometimes there's frustrations. We're like, why don't you get this? Why don't you understand this? Like, I try to compare them with my son who's at their age, and I'm like, well, he understands this. How come you don't understand it? But then I had to really break down that, my son's been playing since he's 3 years old. They've never played.
Right.
And so I had to kind of expose them to different things. So I kind of not only expose them to the sport, but I also want to, our school was really big on college and career development. So I also wanted to expose them to different career opportunities in those sports as well. So not only do I just teach the sport, but also teach them the career opportunities. So that way, when they think about, oh, maybe I want to be a baseball manager, or I might want to be an athletic director, or something like that. So I think those moments when I give them tests and they understand, okay, this is what I learned. So that's probably the more exciting moment that I have as a teacher.
What would you say was one of your least favorite moments, like pranks, fights, school threats, or anything like that sort?
I think my least favorite moments, in the 4 years that I was at the school, my first year, our school was going to undergo renovation. So essentially, the first space they decided to renovate was the gym. So I was out of the gym the last 2 weeks of the semester, or the last 2 weeks of the academic year. So having to adjust to, being outside or being in the classroom or different classrooms. So that was 2 weeks of being a portable office, man, and moving from one place to another. Essentially camping out in the teacher's lounge when I have my planning period or doing other things or whatnot. So that was my first year. Then I think we also went through a teacher walkout my first year.
Oh, wow.
So the state of Oklahoma went through a statewide teacher walkout, trying to get more money for teachers and whatnot. So that was a month. So that was probably not as an exciting part of my first year. And then obviously COVID happened, and then having to teach online. Very difficult to teach online PE, especially when you have 4 and 5-year-old students that their first language is really is Spanish. And so having to really navigate through this technological challenge all of a sudden, and then having to teach it to 4 and 5-year-olds who know a little bit of English, but not enough to, be able to do that. So I think those are some of the challenges that I've incurred over the 4 years of my time there.
You said you wanted to teach high school. What made you want to teach high school?
Well, my background, I've coached high school girls basketball in Ohio. I coached high school girls track. And then obviously it's an age group that's closer to college students that I've worked with for 20 some odd years. So I felt that it would be an easy transition. It would just be an earlier transition than I normally would have had with college students. But through the 4 years at the elementary school I was at, I realized maybe I was meant to be an elementary school teacher because this is where the fundamentals are. This is where you start molding these students into the habits that they need to have in order for them to be successful in the middle school and high school level.
Right.
It's kind of like when you get to middle school and high school, you already set your habits and you kind of set in your ways and you kind of do what you want to do and, and that type of thing. So, I looked at it this way, my schedule was very easy. I had the same class for a whole week. And, so if I had the first grade class at 1:00, that was my class for that week, and then switch, as opposed to having the same students every day for a whole semester.
Right.
So I think just to be able to change that schedule every week, knowing that I have a different class the next week, and it's really teaching the same thing for 3 weeks, as opposed to having to teach something new every day. So it kind of helped me refine myself as a teacher, because if I didn't get it right the first week, then I can fix it the second week, and then the third week, and then kind of review when I got that class back again the fourth week. Um, so I think that kind of eased my mind, because I only really had to teach really 2 lessons a month.
So you've been around a lot of places. Started at Warren G. Harding High School. Are you That's not too far from here. So are you glad to be like back home?
Back home, I'm a '96 graduate of Warren Harding High School. So I left here in 2005 to take a job at Western Carolina University, and then I went from Western Carolina to the University of Missouri, and then from the University of Missouri to the University of New Mexico, from the University of New Mexico to the University of Tulsa, then Tulsa Public Schools. So 16 years later, I was able to move back here, and be back around my mother and family, and just being able to come back home and serve a university that I grew up coming to camps and watching games and things like that. So
that's nice. And you said I know you have 2 kids. I want to say
I have 2 kids. Yes.
2 kids. How old are they?
10 and 11.
10 and 11.
Yep.
Do you think that being in the education system for so long like plays a factor on your kids?
I think so. My one of my relatives has always said that my kids have grown up on college campuses. My son has been with me since the University of Missouri, and I actually have a picture of him somewhere on my phone where he was probably about maybe a month old, 2 months old, or somewhere around there. I'm at a basketball game, and he's cuddled up in my arms, and someone from one of the baseline cameras had took a picture and sent that to me, so I kind of cherish that picture. But yeah, he's been in college athletics. He's been on the college campus pretty much most of his life, except for the 4 years that I was teaching. But I think my kids understand the value of what a college education is, being that their mother and I both have our bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. Their mother's a very successful CPA, in the Kansas City area, and I'm here, being successful in my position here. So I think they understand it, and their older sister, which is my stepdaughter, which is my ex-wife's daughter. I mean, she's in her senior year at a university, and she's kind of setting the example for them that college is an expected destination for you. Whether you're an athlete or not, it doesn't matter. Right. But the expectation is that when you graduate from 12th grade, you are going to college. And they understand that they don't know anything else. So I think me working in a higher education setting, and then their mother having a master's degree and a CPA, they understand that their lifestyle is based on their education. Right. Their lifestyle now is based on our education, but but they understand that their careers, whatever career they decide they want to go into, they have to go to college to do it. Right.
Just have one more question before I get out of here. I seen something when I was doing a little research. Tell me a little bit about the Black Sports Professionals.
So the Black Sports Professionals is a nationwide organization that was started by Bruce Winbush. He used to be, I can't remember what this role was, but he used to be with the Columbus Sports Commission. And it's a nationwide organization kind of set up to help African Americans achieve positions in sports, whether that's professional sports or collegiate sports. And it's a very active organization in terms of nationwide. There's chapters in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Dallas. Most of the major cities where typically you have your pro sports. So I was fortunate enough to be able to join that organization once I moved back here. We didn't really have an opportunity in Oklahoma because, I mean, really the only professional team is Oklahoma City Thunder. So there really isn't a lot. And plus, Oklahoma is kind of a spread out location. But Cleveland is a good spot to have one because you have, the major franchises, plus you have the minor league sports like the Charge and the hockey team. And then you also have all these collegiate institutions around. Like Cleveland has a bunch of colleges that employ African Americans, and really it's just designed to give us a networking opportunity to network with others. My best friend, that I've known for years, she works at the Mid American Conference in Cleveland, and she kind of got me hooked into it. I greatly appreciate her allowing me to be able to, network off of her and whatnot. But that's not the only thing that's available. There's MOA, which is the Minority Opportunities Athletic Association, and their convention's in Vegas next week. So that's one of the reasons why I won't be here next week. So I'm going to be able to attend that convention as well as our National Convention for Academic Advisors. So being able to network with other African Americans and try to bring some knowledge back to Youngstown State and being able to share with our staff and student athletes and being able to make ourselves better, because every day we're trying to get better. We're not where we want to be, but I think that we're better now than we was a year ago.
All right. Just one more thing. What advice would you give to like young teachers or anybody in the educational field?
I think you have to be very open-minded. Education is changing, whether that's at the pre-K through 12 level or at the collegiate level. It's changing. The way that I was taught has definitely changed the way you was taught in school, and it's definitely going to change the way you're going to teach. I look at these math problems that my kids do every day, and I'm like, I have no clue how to solve that the way you solve it. I could tell you the way I would do it, but I have no way of doing it the way you're doing it. My way is probably faster than their way, anyways. But just being able to know that change is always going to come. You're always going to have to pivot. You're always going to have to be nimble, and sometimes it's just going to come quickly. And I learned that in 4 years of teaching, that even though I have a lesson plan, I have a plan. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be A, B, C. I may have to go A before I get to B. Because it just depends on how well your kids can connect with the lesson. My other thing is internalize your lesson, internalize what you're doing. Because what kids don't want to see is you reading off a piece of paper or reading off a PowerPoint. It's good to have a PowerPoint. I'm a visual learner. Most of my students were visual learners. They like to be able to touch it and see it as well. So being able to explain it and then being able to explain it as you're doing it, just like your coaches would. You see it on video, you see it on your playbook, but you also have to live it out on the football field to get the feel of what you're supposed to be doing. So the same thing with students, being able to explain it and then being able to demonstrate it.
I appreciate